Hi movers, this is an exploration of crow pose or Bakasana today. If you are brand new to arm balances, this is a great one to start with. As always, there is no pressure to get into the full pose today. I really invite you to observe, to explore, to play around, to try different variations and take the whole process in steps. So let's get started with a wrist warm-up. So come onto the hands and onto the knees in tabletop position and just start to rock a little bit side to side. It's really important that we give these wrist joints a little bit of a warm-up, feel the weight shifting from left to right, start to establish the palms grounding into the mat. Start to feel all of your knuckles pressing down. So this is really foundational for the hands as we go into arm balances. Let's start to rock a little bit forward and back. If your wrists allow, take the shoulders forward, past the wrists. Maybe you feel and hear a little crackling of the wrist joints like mine right now. And then we'll just take it in some circles. And reverse. All right. So the next part as we prepare to go into an arm balance is to really warm up the core. Okay, this is really key, and I want you to really pay attention to the activation in the upper body as we go into this, because that will be the feeling that we're going for when we go into crow pose. So we're going to start with plank pose. Align the wrists directly underneath your shoulders, step both legs back, and keep the hips nice and level here. Now, as you're here, I want you to press away from the floor. So you start to feel a little doming of the upper back. That's called protraction by spreading the shoulder blades away from the midline. Try to really squeeze the tummy up and in towards your spine. Full activation of the body. So like I was saying before, that activation, especially in the upper body right now, kind of this hollowing out action, is the feeling you want to find when we come into your arm balance. And exhale. Let's lower the knees down. Sit back onto the heels. Let's interlace the fingertips behind you. Take a little sway. Okay. Maybe a little roll of the wrists. So feel free to take a few more plank poses if you're feeling like you're not ready. But if you are, I'm going to show you a beginner variation. Come into a squat pose. Okay. For this variation, I want you to focus on squeezing the inner knees to the tricep or maybe to the elbow. We're going to be using the elbows as a shelf, so do make sure that when you come into this pose, you bend your elbows for the beginner variation. So spread those fingertips nice and wide. Remember, we don't want to be balancing on little mitts. Okay, spread those fingertips wide for equal weight distribution and begin to rock forward, bending the elbows to 90-degree angles. And I just want you to start shifting forward and back, touching the inner knee to the tricep, to the elbow, shifting and feeling the weight rocking. Slowly feeling the wrists and the hands, taking the weight, engaging through the core. Okay, if that feels comfortable for you, you can start to find a little balance. So come up high onto the heels, high onto the toes, lifting the heels. Squeeze, actively squeeze the inner knee into the tricep, bending those elbows. Keep the neck long so that we're gazing forward. Try not to look down because you don't want to face plant right down. And if you are a little bit afraid of that, you can take a block here or a pillow to kind of catch your fall. It's totally okay if you fall. Okay, gazing forward, start to lift one heel at a time. So we're engaging the hamstring by squeezing the heel to the bum, shifting side to side, just lifting one heel. Okay, take little breaks in between. I'm just showing you the different steps you can take. If that's as far as you get today, that's perfectly fine. And this next time, you can try and float both heels to the bum, squeeze it in tight. You'll notice here my back in this position is a little more flat than in true crow pose. So that was the beginner variation. Okay, now taking it into the next variation I'm going to show you is you'll notice that the tailbone will go up a little bit higher, and you'll be placing the tops of the knees directly to the back of the triceps. If some of you can get it all the way up into the armpit, that's great as well. So same thing, spread those fingertips wide, shifting the weight forward, align the top of the knee to the back of the triceps. Slowly coming forward, take it nice and slow. Same thing, you can just practice hugging one heel to your bum at a time. Squeezing the tummy in, feeling that hollowing out through the core, kind of that rounding of the upper back. Take that a few times. When you're ready, you can slowly shift forward and maybe hug both heels to your bum. Gazing forward, really fix your drishti. Try to hold there for a few breaths. Take a little break. Roll out the wrists. And let's try one more time. Okay, so whatever variation you want to work with, I showed you a lot of steps, a lot of ways to work up to the full pose. Just take your last variation now. Remember, if you're coming up into full crow pose, come up high onto the toes, lift those heels. As you shift forward, those elbows should create a shelf. So now the elbows are stacking directly over the wrists. And hug the heels to the bum. Engage through your center. Squeeze that tummy in tight. Breathe. And exhale. When you're finished, I highly recommend taking a child's pose. Your choice if you want the knees together or knees wide, and just soften all the way down. Give those arms a rest. In fact, if your arms are feeling really fatigued, you can take them down at your sides. So that was our Bakasana, or crow pose breakdown. If you guys do have any comments or questions, please write them below and let me know what you would like to see next.